Deep Dives with Anish. Good morning to one and all. This is Anish coming straight from Irvine, California, where the weather is very pleasant with a low of 50 and a high of 70, so wear your comfortable clothes today. In today's Deep Dive radio episode, we will be talking about the platform. You do not have to have watched the movie to enjoy this episode, as I will begin with a quick recap, but you might find it better if you have seen it before. Additionally, big thanks to the platform, directed by Galdagat Silu Urrutia for the movie Parasanical for inspiring an episode on the platform, Anastasia Kripala and Jared Fuller, who provided detailed sources related to the architecture retold in this episode. Now, into the episode.
Spoilers!
The Vertical Self-Management Center, VESC, as one of the characters Imaguri calls it, is a building consisting of over 350 levels of concrete cells. In each concrete cell, two inmates share a level with a large square hole in the center. Once a day, a platform loaded with a lavish feast descends from the top level to the bottom. The people on higher floors eat first, leaving whatever they choose for those below. As the platform moves down, the food is quickly consumed, leaving scraps or nothing at all for the prisoners on the lower levels. Food can't be kept on the same floor, else the floor will become extremely hot or extremely cold. The story follows a tale of Goreng and how through his 6-month stay in the VESC, he descends into madness and ends up being consumed by the platform. That covers a general synopsis of the movie, but you should watch it to understand the deeper explanation behind my radio episode. My goal today is to direct your attention to 3 things. 1. The film's structure and architecture. 2. Its atmosphere and visual design. 3. The way its multi-level system reflects class divisions and produces psychological decay. By the end of this episode, I want you to see the platform as a contemporary version of the Gothic environment, where the real horror comes from the logic of capitalism and from what happens inside the human mind when people are trapped in that system. But first, what do I mean by the contemporary Gothic? Traditional Gothic stories like the Dracula, Frankenstein, or Haunted Mansion tales use dark, isolated settings like castles or crypts to explore fear. They focus on confinement, psychological terror, the unknown, and what happens to the human mind under extreme pressure. Contemporary Gothic takes those same elements, the haunted space, the decay, the psychological breakdown, but updates them for modern anxieties. Instead of ghosts and vampires, we get systems of oppression, economic inequality, and institutional cruelty. The monsters are built into the structure itself. Part 1. The platform as a modern haunted mansion. The movie opens in a clean and controlled space. We see professional chefs preparing food with almost religious precision. The head chef screams at one of the cooks for a small imperfection in a dish. Right away, the film shows us a world of perfection, luxury, and control at the very top of the system. Then we hear the line that organizes everything that follows. There are 3 kinds of people: the ones above, the ones below, and the ones that fall. When Goreng wakes up on level 48, the room he sees is incredibly plain. The atmosphere is very grey. The only natural light comes from a narrow window high on the wall, well above his reach. Imagine 6 to 12 feet above your height. There are 2 beds with bare wood frames and thin lining. There is a sink, a toilet, and a mirror. The walls are thick concrete. The best way to describe this architectural style would be comparing it to the modern brutalist architecture. For examples of this would be the Soviet-style architecture that dominated commercial and housing buildings built in the 1980s Soviet Union. And for people who are more local to Irvine, you see Irvine's Langston Library, Gateway Study Center, ICS, and Engineering Building all employ this brutalist architecture, images of which I have linked in the transcript for those who want to check it out. The clean and stripped down looks combined with the brutalist architecture create this sterile feeling like a hospital, making it seem not too scary but uncomforting. Architecture is important for another reason. The VESC is built around a central void. In the middle of a room, there is a square hole where the platform will appear and disappear. We never see the top nor the bottom of the shaft. The mystery of the unknown, known to define the Gothic, lies in the sentiment of not knowing what lies past a few floors, either above or below. So, even before we talk about the characters, we can already see how the platform uses a modern, concrete structure in the same way traditional Gothic uses castles to depict places like hospitals, prisons, office buildings, or government housing. These are places where people feel powerless. The movie takes that clean, sterile, bureaucratic look to show how people feel confined in these places, scared to be unable to change anything. Part 2: Basic Needs, Capitalism, and Class as a Horror. Now I want to focus on one of the most important details in the film: the sink. Yes, the sink. Inside each cell, the prisoners are given access to 4 out of 5 basic survival needs. They have air, they have shelter inside the platform, they have clothing, they have water from the sink. What they do not have is reliable food. Human bodies can survive a surprisingly long time without eating, especially if there's water. But food is still essential to long term survival. The platform removes only this one element and then builds an entire social system around it. The result is that food becomes the central point of conflict and the main source of fear. Goreng even explains to Trimagasi, his roommate, that people can survive around a month on just water. He suggests that they could refuse to eat the food on the platform and simply drink water, which would avoid violence. Trimagasi rejects this idea immediately. He is scheduled to leave in 2 months, so from his perspective, he has no reason to take that risk. The way the system is designed pushes him to care only about his own short term survival and not about any sense of justice. The scene where Goreng and Trimagasi first watch the platform descend is a good example of this. On level 48, the food already looks dirty, picked over, and partly rotten. Goreng is disgusted. He only chooses a single yellow apple, which is visually bright compared to the grey surroundings and the messed up leftovers. This small choice makes him stand out as different from Trimagasi and from the system. He's trying to limit himself. He's trying to treat the food as if it still has some dignity. The opening line again, quote, "Those above, those below, and those who fall," end quote, comes back into our understanding of class. Those at the top enjoy a clean, controlled environment and see the food at its very best. Those in the middle receive whatever is left. Those at the bottom starve. In any month, any prisoner can wake up on a different level. The result is a moving, unstable class position, but it is still trapped inside one cruel system. The platform shows the fears embodied by the contemporary Gothic by showing the fear of capitalism itself. The vertical structure, the food scarcity, the way people turn on each other helps display fears that a person could have of economic inequality and the world itself. The platform displays an exhibit of our anxiety about class into a physical nightmare that you can see and feel. Now, a quick ad break before continuing on. Spotify.
Get peace of mind knowing what's coming next when you're listening. Turn off shuffle to tune into playlists and albums from start to finish, all while enjoying uninterrupted music listening. Discover more ways to stay in your zone with Spotify Premium. Tap the banner to learn more.
Part 3: Psychological Decay and the Horror Inside the Mind. The last piece of the Gothic puzzle is the mind. Goring enters Wesk as a volunteer. He brings a book, Don Quixote, instead of a weapon. This choice matters. Don Quixote is a character who throws himself into a dangerous world because of his ideas and illusions. Goreng is similar. He believes he can endure 6 months for the reward of a diploma, which feels absurd compared to the pain he experiences. At the beginning, Goreng seems innocent. He is confused by the rules but still tries to be polite. He chooses only the yellow apple when the food arrives. He wants to believe that people can behave reasonably. Trimagasi, his first roommate, is the opposite. He's older, cynical, and fully adapted to the system. He repeats the word obvio, meaning obviously, a lot, almost as if he owns it. He tells Goreng that there are not many levels, but soon there may not be many of us. He treats his own assumption as absolute truth. We also learn that Trimagasi was shaped by consumerism. He was obsessed with a specific knife, then replaced it with a better version, and so on. His story about throwing a television out of a window and accidentally killing an illegal immigrant boy combines the everyday frustration with the very dark fear of the foreign and the unknown. Instead of the Gothic monster from another land, we have a migrant child killed in a city by a random act of rage. This is the modern version of the other. As the story continues, the relationship between Goreng and Trimagasi becomes more disturbing. When they wake up on a very low level, Trimagasi ties Goreng to the bed. He plans to cut off pieces of Goreng and eat them to survive. He presents this as a rational decision, claiming that he is preventing chaos, that someone has to do it, and that will free Goreng later. Goreng argues that they could survive on water alone, but again, Trimagasi refuses. He knows he is scheduled to leave the platform. This knowledge gives him a different moral position in his own mind. He believes the future is guaranteed, so he is willing to sacrifice Goreng. The contemporary Gothic displays itself here through Trimagasi convincing himself that his selfishness is logical and even necessary. By the end of the film, Goreng is no longer the naive volunteer from the beginning. He is a fractured, haunted figure who has absorbed the platform into his identity. He tries to send a message of hope, but even the message is ambiguous and may never actually change anything. This psychological breakdown is just as important as the physical environment. The platform does not only starve bodies, it infects minds. Conclusion: why the platform belongs to the contemporary Gothic tradition. To sum up, I think the platform fits the contemporary Gothic tradition in three main ways. First, it gives us a haunted structure that belongs to our time. Instead of a castle or mansion, we get a brutalist concrete tower, the kind of institutional architecture we encounter in our daily lives. It is contemporary because we recognize these spaces: the government office, the hospital waiting room, the corporate building. The platform makes us see the horror that's already embedded in the modern bureaucratic system. Second, it shows us how the multi level food system creates a world where inequality feels inevitable. The line about those above, those below, and those that fall is the core of the film's class message. Third, it shows us how the environment slowly destroys people from the inside. Goreng and Trimagasi are not simply good or evil. They are twisted and shaped by Wesk until they act in ways that are cruel, desperate, and sometimes delusional. It is caused by a system that grinds people down, just like the real world systems many of us navigate. Through these three means, the architecture, the class system displayed through the floating platform, and the mental decay of the characters, the platform acts as an example of the contemporary Gothic. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We covered a lot of topics relating to the Gothic and the platform. I also hope that you can see why the platform is an example of the contemporary Gothic, and if not, leave with some takeaways of the unique structure and atmosphere of the film. Again, I would encourage you to see the film if you have not, and then listen to my podcast. But that's all I have for today. Tune back in next week for my analysis on Money Heist. This is Anish, signing out.